Hello and welcome to Get Into Games on Air, a podcast about board games and the people who play them. Welcome to a mini bonus pod, Board Games in Education Part 2. And joining me as ever is, of course, the wonderful, the delightful, the joyful, the person that makes every day a lot happier.
Oh, wow.
Rebecca! Hello.
Hi.
Hello. I see you're styling your wonderful brand new shirts and merch. T-shirt.
Blood on the cocktail.
Trouble.
It's so comfortable. It's really thick as well.
This is our
nice.
lovely sponsor, Shirts and Merch. Head over to Shirts and Merch on Etsy. Check out all of their fantastic designs of their premium, incredible quality clothing. And also, this podcast, Instagram Live, and Instagram Live, is sponsored by Rent, Shuffle and Roll. Rent, Shuffle and Roll are a board game rental service where you can rent board games for some money a month, but you'll be renting them for less money a month if you use code GITG50 to get 50% off your first month's board game rental with Rent, Shuffle and Roll. That is GITG50. So head over to rentshuffleandroll.co.uk today, not right now, you're listening and watching this podcast, but after you've listened, remember to head to that website and get yourself 50% off your first month's rental. So, this is a mini pod.
Haha, like what you did there?
That was good. Yeah. Another one of our mini pod reviews where we are talking board games education. If you listen to the first part of the last episode, we were talking to our wonderful friend May from Playing Together Board Games, or Play Together Board Gaming, one or the other, and we were talking about all things board games in education, from a home education and to a school education standpoint. And I just sat there in silence in the corner. So I do these introductions, which is quite nice. And today we are...
Well, the box is so big that I'm hidden behind it.
Today we are talking about a game that we saw first at UK Games Expo last year, and now we have the physical thing in our little grubby little mitts. If you're listening on the podcast, that's ASMR for you. We have it here, Me Box Live, which is a maths sport challenge, which makes learning sporty.
It's not me. It's my box, isn't it? That's what I get confused about. My Box Live. So you have to apologise to the guy,
Christopher,
who made it. Yeah.
Christopher, I'm sorry, Christopher, for calling your game.
It's mine.
Yes,
mine.
Yes, it's so yeah. So this game, Me Box Live, is. A wonderful sporty maths challenge. We've just had a game with our daughter.
We've had a few games.
We have, yeah, and our daughter has won the last game before bed.
She beat me.
She beat you.
I can't believe it.
She did beat you, and that was good. So this, what is My Box Live?
So it is essentially a board that is modular, which I really like. So if I just move these little dudes out the way. I wanted them to be front and centre, you see, because they are cool. But it is modular, so you can make the track as long or as short as you like, which I really like. Yeah, so you could make it 100 metres, you can make it 200 metres, you can make it 400 metres, and it's really cool. And essentially you are racing your little characters, your athletes, or mathletes, as... they are,
yes,
around the track by answering maths questions. Now, these are all super cute. I love these. So there's a tennis player.
Who is the minus.
And there is a boxer. And...
American football dudes, quite nice.
They all have the maths language around the outside of their characters. So, for example, the footballers got divide, group, share on it. So it's reminding you of the maths language that
the rugby player's got the times, and then it's got lots of product, multiply, groups of, and yeah, it's just to reinforce that language.
So Craig obviously went for the rugby player because that's his thing. Alana's been learning fingerboarding. If you've listened to other podcasts, so she went for the skateboarder. And what did I have? I think I had the tennis player.
You did. Also, what's cool about the little characters, they've got some like the footballer guy. If you're into your football, he's got the number 7 on the back. So Eric Cantona, David Beckham, Cristiano Ronaldo. I can't think of any many.
I
don't think there were any good footballers from Middlesbrough. I'm pretty sure there weren't.
Oh, you can't say that. The guy who made it's from there.
Ow.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry, Chris. I'm so sorry. Anyway, we digress. So in the box,
my dad's from Sunderland. Well, he was.
In the box, you get some whiteboards, and I don't know if you can see, but well, the people who are listening to the podcast can't see it. But there's a number line. It goes from -10 to 30. And I wasn't sure whether it was going to get used that much, but our daughter sort of picked it up straight away, and she was using it as she went along. We didn't really even have to tell her to do it.
No.
And at one point I said, "You can use your number line." She said, "Yeah, Mum, I'm already doing it," which was really cool. You get these really cool, I can't get them out now, times tables, what would you call them?
Tubes.
No, Chris had a word for them, but I can't remember what they were. Like they're, like times table sticks. And you can stick them over your pencil, which I thought was quite a cool idea. And they're just like a handy hint for your times tables, because essentially this game has two parts. You can play it as a times tables game. So there are flashcards, which have times tables on them. Look like this. So this one says 3 times 9. And what's really nice is that the children themselves can be the person controlling the game, because this says 3 times 9, and then on the back it's got the answer, so they can sort of test their own, test their friends, and the teacher or the adult or the mum or the dad doesn't need to be necessarily running the game. The child can do that. So there's a nice little touch. And not only do they go from 0 to 12 on the times tables, they go all the way up to 20. So there's, we were playing with half the deck. So we had things like 0 times 19 and 3 times 13, etc. So that's a really cool, neat idea, I thought. Just trying to see if there are any comments. Can't wait to open mine soon. Oh, cool. There are the whiteboard pens, orange and black, for working on your whiteboard. And then you've got a dice. Well, actually, you get two dice in the box.
Dice.
The dice is essentially how many spots your character can move around. The track when you get your question.
Yeah, so you answer a question, you roll the dice, you move your man, lady, person, number, mathlete. You move your mathlete around the track that many squares. So yeah, it's quite a nice little race. I was like, I thought, okay, cool. We'll answer questions and you'll run. But like, Alana was definitely getting really into how far she was going. The point where she got it right, she was like, yes, and then rolled a dice, and then she was like just edging ahead of us.
And
like she'd
like,
rolled.
I better not get this wrong this time because I want to move along.
Yeah, so she rolled a 3 and I rolled a 2, and then it was like neck and yeah, it was good.
So, what do you think about the times tables side of it, Craig?
What do I think about them?
Yeah,
they're multiplication.
Craig loves maths.
I've got chills. They're multiplying.
Oh, wow.
And I'm losing control. I just wish there was an app.
No. Anyway, so what do you think about the times tables cards? We played it both
they were
ways.
fine. They were good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So, I
was
enjoy...
segueing you.
No, I know, but we were talking about the times tables card. I really like the times tables cards.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed seeing Alana using the columns,
the tools, that she had,
to like answer the questions, and she was able to almost do it as quickly as us because she used the columns, which was really nice, because often in times tables games you just get the question and then there's nothing to help you with. So obviously Craig and I would hope get it right before her, but she was pretty much, keeping up with us because she had that extra support.
It was nice. Yeah, it was nice to be able to do those flashcards, have a quick game without having to worry about tech and stuff. It's like, and from a purely analog perspective, I think it's great, and having that multiplication, having that part of the game, I think you essentially, from an analog perspective, you could essentially do it with multiple different types of questions. You could do the questions without the need of tech.
Yeah, and I also think because it goes up to 20, if we were asked to do 16 times 8, we would have to think about how to do that.
Yeah.
So, there is the option for making it a bit harder.
Yeah.
Potentially, if you were doing it with smaller children, they could have the 0, 1, 0 times, 1 times, 2 times perhaps, while everybody else has different cards. So there's lots of ways you can play. There's not one specific game that you can do. You can kind of mix it up. You can do teams. It's versatile in that way. It doesn't say in the box you have to do it like this.
No.
So that's quite nice, and you can make up your own little family games, and I think we'll have a lot of fun exploring it. And I think that Alana will be starting to make up her own games. She may be, you could even make your own cards of little questions for each other.
I think that's it. I think it's like it's the fuel almost to spark the fire of the imagination into getting into doing things. Because I think for some people, I know for me it was one, like maths, it's not my subject, and it can be quite daunting and quite scary, and it's one of those things that if you can't do, you felt like you're a bit stupid for not being able to do it, really.
Yeah, so that's one way you can play, and then the other way you can play is via the app. So the app is pretty cool, and what I really like about it, you might not be able to see, so I managed to get it up on my phone, so I was trying to show you. We were able to, you can see the ring. Oh, there we go. We were able to set it so that we had different levels. So Alana was doing the top level of function machine, and then Craig was doing the middle one, and then I was doing the bottom one. And I thought this was like really cool because...
Would you like to explain what a function machine is?
Oh, yeah. So a function machine is essentially... Sorry. Function machine is essentially you start with a number, you do certain things to it, and you end up with a number at the end. Simple things like, so Alana had to do 7, add 5, and then add 5. Whereas I had to do 3, subtract 6, multiply by 11, take away 7, etc. So I was having to do far more complicated maths than Alana was having to do. And I really like that because I don't think there are many, well, I don't know of any maths games where we could all play, but all play at our level.
Well, I don't even think there's a game that you can do that. I can't think of if you ask me to think of a board game, of any board game, where you can essentially, without homebrewing it, scale it. So a 4-year-old, a 10-year-old, and 2 21-year-olds. One 21-year-old and you could play like competitively.
Yeah, exactly.
And be able to get it wrong and get it right. And
so what happened is the teacher got questions wrong because you're trying to do it quickly and you make errors. And, you had a moment where you were like, what? How do I subtract again? Alana was just racing off.
Yeah.
And she was like, I've done mine.
Yeah, but what is good as well is there is that whole thing that we were talking about in the last podcast that we did about it's okay to lose. And by the grown-ups getting the questions wrong or having a complete brain meltdown that couldn't remember how to take away 45 from 115, Like it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay. And I think that's a big hurdle to overcome, especially when it comes to things like math and English and spelling or numbers. Like I think there is that hurdle of, it's okay not to be brilliant at things, and also it's okay to get things wrong.
Yeah, and it was good because we showed Alana that was possible, and so she didn't mind so much that she was making mistakes, and it was cool. I think also, thinking about it, we did the big 400 track. In hindsight, I might have gone for a shorter track with the function machines just to keep it quite snappy.
Yeah.
And then build up to the longer run, because I don't know, it took us like half an hour, but and obviously it was late at night. So
she wanted to play again, immediately.
Exactly.
She was like, "Can we do another race?"
We were like, maybe not, because we got things to do. But she did want to play it. So yeah, I was really happy with it. The only thing that and it's more user error than anything to do with the people. But what did I do to my board?
There it is. It's that one. Third one. That one.
Is it?
Yeah, I can see it's there.
I scratched my board.
Yeah, so
I think it was me pressing too hard with the plastic bit of the whiteboard
the eraser,
pen.
yeah.
So perhaps if I'd have known that might happen, see this plastic bit, I think it was my error.
That corner, pushed too hard on the board.
And in hindsight, I might have just used like a board rubber that I have at school, like a flat one.
Yeah, 100. Yeah, I used the sleeve of my jumper because I'm an animal. I think if we're being picky about stuff, I think if you, after a prolonged amount of time play, I can imagine some of these little dudes losing some stuff, especially if you take it to school, which I know you're going to do. I do worry, and I know how heavy-handed the kids can be, and there are some kind of.
But maybe you could buy. I don't know. Maybe in the future you'll be able to buy a set.
Replace the little mathletes.
I think only some of them, but I worry that
the tennis racket, the baseball back is literally very bendy. But I think
we will be very careful with it. So
100%. Yeah, I mean, we're pretty good with our games, but there is that thing of it happens in the cafe. They're not my games. I don't care about them, so I'll do what I wish. And unfortunately, that's the way it works. But
even without their little,
they're cool.
Bit,
they're quality,
and
made.
they are quite sturdy and stuff. So.
They're like legs. I've no worries about their legs or anything like that. It's just they're obviously how carrying their sports equipment. But you'd hope that people
they should just move them nicely.
Yeah. But I love it, and I like there's the spare dice if you lose one. But
Chris says super glue just in case.
Yeah, in the box,
true.
It's fine. But having a spare dice is always good if you lose one. But also, it's quite nice. So you could, if there was a kid that really wanted to, you could have 2 dice for someone. If there was anyone excelling, you could use 2 dice for movement or something like that. If you wanted to,
they did some really good workings out. They could get an extra roll or something. You could incentivize.
Yeah,
them.
I think I it's quite an interesting way we're looking at it, because I think you've looked at this very educationally. You've looked at it very, I'm going to put this in practice in my classroom. How am I going to do that? What am I going to do? I know the kids that I'm going to specifically do this. And I'm looking at this going, it's fun. When my brain finally woke up, I was enjoying it. But my head was going, how can we gamify this? How can we put more game into answer question, roll a dice, move your little dude? Like, how can we put more game into it? But so and that really interested me.
But I think the game. So essentially, the game is to go around the track, but there's no reason why you can't add your little home rules or like people. So here's an example. We played. So in a minute, which is going to be weird, on the podcast, you'll hear us talking to Chris, because we filmed a bit with him earlier on in the week.
Correct.
But we hadn't received our copy yet, so we wanted to mash these 2 things together. So essentially, you're going to hear us talking about it, and then he's going to talk about it. But he was talking about Scrabble, being the kind of go-to letter game. And the things that people do with Scrabble now. So we had a Scrabble board that was Scrabble Trickster with extra cards. We've just played Star Wars Scrabble that has its own little rules. And I feel like that's the kind of thing that you could do with this game. You could have little extra cards, take a different action, or there's the basics of this game lends itself to having extra expansions of bits and pieces, or you just make it yourself as a fact. Like there's nothing our kids like more than to like make up a game.
Yeah, I think, as I said, I think this is definitely igniting kind of an imagination into that kind of thing, and also they're learning valuable skills, and that's great. I think there's definitely a place for this, and I think there definitely 100% is a place for this in an educational setting like a school. But I do think even at home there is a place for this, like it's
well, just like there is for Scrabble,
Yeah, that's it. Scrabble has always been the go-to letter word building game. You can learn words. There's Junior Scrabble to teach you how to spell words, and Scrabble is all about that. There isn't one specific for maths that's like this, and it's very impressive.
And I think if you're trying to find games that suit your whole family, and you've got a range of ages, then it's perfect, because you can set up, I think it's up to 4 different levels of, 4 people, but you could have 4 teams. So you could have, the little ones, or you could even like sort of have the big ones with the, it's so versatile, I think. So,
100%.
I'm really excited to take it to school to see what the children at school think about it. I'm really excited to play it more with Alana, and I'm really excited to see where the app goes, because at the moment it's just function machines, but I imagine you can do I know it said coming soon was worded problems, so from a teacher's point of view, with SATs coming up in, I think Chris keeps reminding me, 15 weeks, and every time he says it I get shivers down my back, because I'm a year 6 teacher and I have to get them through the SATs, but I think worded problems and adding bits to the app will just make it more interesting and more of an intervention, particularly in schools if you're using it that way. But equally, if you've got a 10, 11-year-old who's getting close to their SATs or 11 plus kind of things and wants to just boost their math knowledge, then this is a really good, fun way of doing that. And it's enjoyable. And yes, it says math on, because Craig's initial feeling was, will it turn people off because it says maths sports challenge? So, if people don't like maths, are you going to be turned off by the fact that it's got like...
It's a very clinical box. Like, it is a fantastic design. It stands out. But it's very clinical. It's very white words. You've got your little mathletes down at the bottom, but you have
It says maths a lot.
It says maths multiple times.
Literacy.
Maths is scary, so one, that scares people. But also the very white, almost precision surgical perfection of the box kind of makes me... Does this go, this is a game, or this is an education tool?
But I think once we'd played it, you were like, "Oh yeah, this is
I just from a shelf standpoint, if that was on the shelf in the shops,
but I like that you've played it and then you see the game in it.
100%.
Which is testament to what Chris has put together. Because actually, you were a bit frightened by it. Well, not frightened by it, but
I was frightened because it says the word maths on it.
Yeah, a little bit worried about it, and then it turned out to be quite cool. And I still can't get over the fact that we just played a game where we all did maths at our level and we all played together.
Yeah.
And
lost to a 10-year-old.
Chris wants me to show the back of the box, but that means everything's
putting the lid on it. Here's the back of the box, everyone. I like back of box, and I can't. There you go.
Oh, did you hear that noise? That's so awful.
This picture, I like this picture. This is the picture. Sorry, podcast listeners. There's a picture of all the mathletes pushing each other round, and it's all the cartoony quality pictures. They're all on the back of the box.
Yeah. So it says. So I'll read the back. It says, "Welcome to." Is it my or me?
My.
My Box Live. You signed up to become a My Box Live Math Sports Challenge athlete. As a My Box Live athlete, you will challenge other My Box Live athletes competing against each other in a number of athletic track disciplines. So you could imagine you were doing 400 meters, 200 meters, but you could equally be swimming, I guess.
As you're running around, there's all these questions. You could call them hurdles. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I'm just trying to see what Chris said. Oh, yes, they do need to be on the front, Chris.
See?
It allows users to be creative when learning, giving users many options of gameplay. I definitely agree with that. And then because you've got the hybrid version, which merges with technology.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's really cool.
It's a really nice.
Definitely put these people on the front. I think if you put these people, I'm just giving Chris advice now, on the front here, then people are gonna like, especially like gamers.
Yeah.
Gonna be more interested in it, I think.
Yeah. I think they're like little things, little changes. But I think it's really good for everyone to think about.
But also we know, having spoken to Chris, that he's all about making changes, adapting things, tweaking things. So there's a couple of things with the app that aren't quite right, and he's on it. He's fixing it, and he's constantly looking to see how he can improve it to make it accessible for more and more people. So yeah.
And currently the price point is very good on it at the moment, isn't it?
Oh yes. So I think we mentioned this later, but if you want to get a copy, it's on Amazon for $39.99, and it's on the My Box Live website for $34.99, and I would say that is an absolute steal.
Yeah.
If you're even like sort of wavering on it, and you think, oh, I've got a child's birthday coming up, or they might like this, or they're really struggling with their maths, and I think this might help them get excited about it.
Yeah.
Go buy it, because
at the moment at that price is a steal. And I know, like, for example, Brad and Susie, if Games with Beanie, I know how much Beanie loves maths and how good Brad is at maths. They would have an amazing time playing this game.
Yeah.
They would really, really be challenging each other, and this would be a phenomenal little game for them to play.
Yes, Board Games After Dark. He would love this. Yeah. And I think he could do.
You could, because you can check, like, as you mentioned on the app, like changing is the levels of questions, and all these dudes. These are so cute as well, and these things, these Chris, these have got plushies all over them.
Oh yeah,
this has got plushy versions of these. Squashmallow times multiplication.
If you took squashmallows of these to UKGE, everyone wants them.
Yeah. So squashmallows, and I think squashmallows is the way forward in life. But I think
our kids love a squashmallow.
They really, really do.
Anyway, shall we let Chris explain his game? So we will leave this podcast now.
Yes.
In a very weird way, and let Chris talk to us in the past.
Exactly.
About what's going on.
Right. So over to Chris. So we are very lucky today to have a special guest with us.
Yeah.
We have the wonderful Chris, who is from Me Box Live. You may remember a while ago when we were doing our UKGE wrap-up, we mentioned Me Box Live as a fantastic maths game that was there, and we really, really loved it. And we've been trying to get Chris on the podcast for quite a while, and we have him now. Well, so hello, Chris. How are you doing? Are you well?
I'm good.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Good. Yes. So first of all, introduce yourself. And
I'm Chris, and I'm the founder of My Box Live. And what we do is we combine numeracy, sport, and games to make the learning and maths fun. And we've designed a little board game. It's a 1 to 20 times table track and card game. So you've got a running track, you've got some really cool figures like a skateboarder, a rugby player, a footballer, a tennis player, and a few others. And And what you do is you select your little character, you choose your track size, which is based on a 400-metre running track, and everyone loves the 400 metres, so that seems to be the most popular at the minute. So they get the little figures on the track. We've got a little whiteboard with the number line on, and we've got our 1 to 6 and 7 to 12 times table columns, just to keep you right. And the referee will pull the cards. If you get it right, you get an opportunity to roll the dice and whiz round the track until you all the way around until you've done your 400 metres and dip at the line and see who wins. And we've only got a 1 to 3 dice to keep the game quite tight. And there's loads of ways of playing. You could do the 100, you could do the 200. You can line the guys up, work in teams. You can chase each other like a pursuits in the cycling in the Olympics, and so that's and what the app does. It comes with a little cheeky app that opens up the curriculum, and you can do add, subtract, multiply, divide, fractions, percentage, decimals. So there's a lot going on in there as well to make it a little bit more fun. So it's a little, I guess it's like we're merging a bit of tech with hands-on learning. And I'm thinking to myself, if you put a bit of sport together to big industry, ed tech, I think 900 million spent in schools each year on the hook to engage kids. And if you get the board game industry, which is worth 12 billion, if you mix that all up, you're going to get you're going to get people celebrating getting a maths question right. That's what we want to do through the power of sport. And that's what we're trying to do.
I mean, what inspired you to making the game? Where did it come from?
I'd have to go back to when I was a kid, and I still remember I had a tin of words. I think them laminators must have just come out then, in the late sort of 80s. So I had my tin of words in my granddad's baccy tin, because I was never very good at reading and writing, and I think we had these sort of little blocks, and that was as most exciting as it would get for English and maths for me. There wasn't any gamified learning as such, and I needed support and help all the way through my life. And I know that feeling when you go to a lesson and you get a bit nervous, someone's going to make you read out, or someone's going to ask you, how do you work this sum out? And the panic, and it's like, oh God. But somehow I battled through, and I managed to, in 2011, I had a group of kids who were coming to after school clubs, a group of kids in Darlington, and brilliant kids they just wanted to learn. And we were doing worksheets, and it was a bit boring, really. It was a hot summer. And I thought, well, why can't we mix it up a little bit and have everyone facing each other? And this is where it started to evolve, really, the little math sports challenges. And we've now come to the game that you see it today, which is not a bad-looking game, really. And I think it's an engaging one. And,
It's really cute. And just before we recorded this, you were showing us the little mascots that you play with. And there's actually a lot of detail goes into them. Do you want to explain a little bit about the detail?
We've got the language for learning on the little guys. So we've got, and we've even got eyelashes on here, so you can see who's a boy and who's a girl and a boy there. So, for example, we've got like our Mr. Times Table dude, and he's got number 10 on the back with try, and that could be Johnny Wilkinson or Owen Farrell or one of the guys there. But the language for learning on the sides are like product, multiply, groups of, lots of. And we've got a little basketball dude with 23 on. That could be LeBron James. We've got our little skateboarder dude here who's got his skateboard out. That's a bit of Tony Hawk's there, Pier 30, the first person to do a 900 degree, which is cool. And on the ad here, we've got plus, increase. So it's insight in mind learning. We've got more and some. These little things that when you're playing the game, believe it or not, your eyes and your mind pick up this type of information. And if you ever look at the book David Sousa, How the Mind Works, 3rd edition, retaining information, practice by doing is one of the biggest things. And when you're involved and you're having a go yourself, you get to retain the information. We've got tennis players, we've got baseball dudes, all with unique little bits and bobs on the back. We've got Ace 40 Love. So little talking points, I guess. You know.
Yeah, they're so cute, but I noticed that at UKG, that you're initially drawn to the little characters, and then the fact that they've got those kind of little unique things about them with the words and the specificness of the characters is really cool. I think
I must admit, Longpack Toys and Games
really
have been unbelievable. The manufacturer, they've probably saved me 10 grand in tweaking and doing things. They came to me at the Expo Games a couple of years ago, and I just knew that it was going to be the right fit. You just get that gut instinct, and they're just brilliant. And they're seeing an opportunity to think, well, hang on, this is something totally different. We want to roll with this. And I know they want my business and stuff like that. And I get that, but it gives me that little bit of confidence and they've given me all the time in the world to get this pretty much bob on. It's there. And I mean, with the app accompanying it as well, which is great. Some of the key, do you want me to mention a couple of little key features for the app? So normally you've got your times table guy who's the referee who's pulling the cards out. You want a 20 times table game. Some of the key unique features. I'm going to spin you around here. So does that help? Can you see there a little bit? I know everyone who's watching can't, but anyway. But let's have a look here. I tell you what. There we go. Right, is that right? Right. So a couple of key features. So we've got a little performance center. It's all based around sport when you do your learning. So you've got your little tournament area. So at school or at home, you can run a competition. You might do one lap of the track. There might be 2 people, and whoever wins goes to the next round, which is cool. Then we've got our little performance center here. So we start at Prime 5, and there's a key to this as well, because no one wants to be labelled I'm level 1 or 2. We've kept away from it, but it's in there for the teachers and stuff. No. So if you get this question right on your whiteboard, you move to the next one, and they get progressively harder, you see. And you
they're like, just for people who can't see, they're like function machines.
So we've primarily decided for now we'll work on function machines, because you're working a number from left to right, and you can put a hell of a lot into a function machine. Fractions, percentages, add, subtract, multiply and divide, cube numbers, all sorts of things, working that number from left to right in a little sequence. And it's asking that person to show me a method, show me your skills. And if you get it right, you whiz round the track. So you might get this one wrong, and it might suggest that you're best off staying at Prime 5. Now, once you sort of know your levels, you can have a little 2-player. We might have someone on Prime 5. They might be 5 or 6 years old, and we might have someone doing the SATs, which are coming up in 15 weeks' time. So if anyone's needing that little bit of extra help, I think we know where to go, don't we, with my box? So if you go to the little questions there, you'll see the differentiation here. I know you can't see it, but So now we've got on the little really whiteboard, cool. You'll circle or tick B, and then you've got someone working at something a little bit more complicated than the little beginner here doing the ad. And we can split this into 4 screens max, which is cool.
Mm-hmm. I think that's quite unique, because there's very few like apps that obviously I teach, and there's very few apps where you could have children at different levels doing the same thing and playing a game together. And I'm just thinking of like our 2 children, they could both be playing the game, but at the level that's right for them. And I think that's
one of the reasons why I chose to do this is because, well, hang on, there was families at the Expo Games. I remember there was a 5, 11 and a 14-year-old and mum. So it was like, well, hang on, they're all going to be different levels in their journey, in education. So I thought, well, hang on, we need a split screen here. We need something. So Dad, you will get one wrong, because we can. I'll show you in our secondary school. But here we can go up to our little masters level. Hang on. So you can I know it's
Yeah.
so you've got 10 little functions to work on all the way across, which will, exactly.
Puzzles in the
And now
newspaper,
I think I
they're
spotted them in the Daily
functions.
Mirror about 10 years ago. I don't think they do now, and I thought, hang about. And I spent about 3 years doing a database, and from the database, I give that to the app developer. We can write algorithms to manage at set levels. So this can generate questions, and they all overlap at each level a little bit. And it's like in sports, sometimes you might get the keeper might fall over and you go, hey, and you score a goal. Now and again, it might throw something that's slightly easier than normal. And then you're like, whoa, get in there. I know what I'm doing here. I'm getting across the line,
But sometimes it's the simple questions that the children actually get wrong in the SAT. So, it's good that it goes back, back and forth. And I think that from a school perspective, having, I'm thinking of my LSA taking, 4 or 5 children out to do an intervention. Actually, you can have children working at different levels, but we're all playing this one game.
Well, I found that in my classroom. There was always, especially when you're working in special educational needs or social, emotional, and mental health schools, you'll get a couple of kids of lower ability in their learning journey. Let's say they're not quite up to speed yet, and then you'll get a few of the kids that are a little bit further on, and that's just, hey, no problem with that. But it's all, and it was very difficult sometimes to incorporate something into a game, but with this app, we can do that now. And I know that the pains and gains of teacher life, this is, and teaching assistant, and especially teaching assistants, because sometimes, people expect teaching assistants to be good at blooming everything. 1 minute you're doing science. I remember it. I'd pull kids when I was starting my career. I'd be doing science 1 minute. I'd be going, oh my God, I don't have a clue. And then it'll be geography. Then it's maths. It might be maths at level 1, then maths at level 8. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even have a phone with Google on back then. So I couldn't have a little look and go, I know this. I couldn't. And for a teaching assistant to take this on and facilitate learning and get involved and feel part of the teaching staff and everything, this is a great little thing for that, and it's great for teachers, and it's, for some of the good kids who maybe can manage their emotions, they'll just sit and play on it. At a break or lunch, and doing that extra 20 minutes here and there, blooming heck, what a difference it makes. And we do have, I just want to quickly show you here, I know you can't see, but we've got our rules for the STEM accreditation, we've got our rules for kids, rules for adults. Hang on, it's fell asleep on me. Right. Typical, that, isn't it? Live on air.
Right. So at the minute, you've got a special offer, haven't you, for people who might be interested in buying it? Is it just for January, did you say?
I think, look, we're trying to gauge, and I'll be honest, that type of price point to get it right. Now, we're at $34.99 on the website, and on Amazon it's $39.99, because I know that can fluctuate a little bit. We can, but I think you're getting a really good 1 to 20 times table, not just your 1 to 12, because I think the government expect 8-year-olds to know the 1 to 12 and be able to recite the times table. But we're going a bit further with your 1 to 20, because it's a bit more technique, isn't it? To do 19 times 30. And you're not just going, once you know 6 sixes are 36, you're pretty much there. And you think, well, where's the next step? Now, if you go on and do that, then you've got the app, which opens up a hell of a lot more of the curriculum. And it's, how can I explain it? For $34.99, it's not much of it's not much of a risk. Maybe higher price, you might panic a little bit, but we give people the option, if you're really unsatisfied with it, you can just send it back. It's not a problem, and we'll donate it to a charity or donate it to a school.
What do you get in the box
8
for that price?
little characters. all different sports stars. You get a track that changes shape into a big track, and then a smaller track, and then a little circle, so you can do one step at a time chasing each other. And you can vary the track size depending on if you've only got a few minutes at the end of your lesson. You might not do a full track. You get 4 sets of your 1 to 12, so 1 to 6, 7 to 12 times table columns. So everybody gets a set when they're playing. I didn't want to just put 2 in there. I wanted everyone to feel part of that. They've got it's like when you're putting a helmet on in it and you're going for a bike ride and stuff like that. You want all your gear on. And then you get 4 pens. Your little orange dudes here. And you get 2 dice, 1 spare.
Yeah.
And then you get your 2 decks, your 1 to 12 and your 13 to 20 times table cards, and away you go. And you also fuck, neck, yeah.
And your whiteboards.
Yeah, so you've got your whiteboard
your number lines
as
on.
well. And yeah, that's what.
Well, as a teacher, I know how much people like Espo and things charge for times tables, resources, and number lines and things. So I actually think that's not bad. What you're getting in the box, as well as getting a game. You're getting some mass resources.
Yeah, well, do you know? I was looking on the YPO the other day, and I couldn't believe my eyes that. Do you know them little cube blocks that you get? 10s. It was 80 quid for all these little blocks, and I was like, oh my God. I couldn't believe. I thought, and they're in blue now because they used to be in brown when I was a kid. So they must have been like, they've gone all trendy in blue. But I'm just thought that, can you imagine paying 80 quid for these little blocks, which they probably have some purpose, but they're just not quite as, they're not going to get bums on seats for 20 minutes to do a little lap here and there, or you run a competition. It's there's that if you're into rugby or you just love your maths, you're gonna get the kids who love sport into it, and then you're gonna get your maths kids coming out the shell, maybe taking up a sport and stuff. So I feel as though value for money there, it's not bad.
I think I think £35 is a steal, really. Yeah. For what's in there.
And like the thing you mentioned, like we mentioned it off pod, like why specifically you made it maths, why you specifically wanted a maths game. You mentioned earlier off pod, you mentioned about like Scrabble and how there wasn't anything specifically for maths. A game that is like fundamentally.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything the way I've put this game together out there, and I know there isn't because I've looked. And if there just isn't. And the reason for this is, if I remember at primary school with my reading and stuff like that, I was a target, and you can get scarred and you can get that anxiety. And if people are there to pick you off in the whole class, 30 kids in the class, and you can't read out properly, you're going to get a bit of, bullying. And I experienced that. But I thought, well, hang on, why can't we have, this could evolve into spelling and various other things, of course, but why couldn't we have, if you're in a small group and you make a mistake, it's not that bad with your mates. But, and them scars, they followed me into secondary school, and I remember the anxiety and the nervousness that used to approach me in a load of stuff, and it still happens now. I'm a lot better now. I've trained myself to... And I don't want people to experience some of the things that I had when you were at primary school. Once something gets in your head, it's hard to come back from it. So I thought, well, if I have this game, it's not going to be for everyone, but some mums and dads, some teachers are going to take it and see how it's going to work in their environment. And that gives me that's my gold medal to think that maths and sport, good combination, really, maths and sport. Also... English, I've thought about how I'd do it for English, and I don't know yet. It could be a spelling test. It could even turn into a general knowledge game where you click on PE, geography, and it's got the whole curriculum in there, and it's just based around having a little bit of fun for once. You know, just a bit of fun.
Yeah, I think that what's really good about it is that it won't really age, because you've picked iconic, like sort of like the Tony Hawk kind of character, but it's not labeled as Tony Hawk, so it could be anybody. Like it will stand the test of time, I think, because at the end of the day, it's times tables and it's little characters that are quite cute. There's no like, some games just like Trivial Pursuit. With some of the questions, it kind of like, oh, well, this is out of date. Doesn't make sense anymore. Whereas your game, I think,
the good thing is
a
triangle's a triangle, isn't it? Or a square. And, 5 out of 5 is 10, and it's not going to change, which is great. I mean, like, this stood the test of time for spelling, and it's still... I know Scrabble, you might look at it and think, is it the best looking game? Is it this, that, and the other? But in the moment, it fit a purpose, didn't it? And
yeah, I wonder how many people learnt to spell just from playing lots of games
of course.
Scrabble.
I mean,
I expected
even
quite
myself,
a lot.
I was the 3-word bandit. I could get away with the cat. I was a legend, but when we trying to get all out of me, God, I was in a bit of trouble. But like you mentioned there, these could change to animals and dogs and Star Wars figures and Lego and God knows what. It doesn't. It could. Who knows? Really, it could be whatever.
It's a system, isn't it? It's a system. We've got lots of games that are like like Pandemic now has a whole system of pandemic games, so you could be branching off into all these different areas just based on your one system that you created to do with. So what is next for you? What are you aiming for?
Good question. That. Well, so I'm working in partnership with Newcastle University and the National Centre for Ageing up there, so the Internet of Care things. They've been unbelievably supportive with me and helped me and done so many things for me. We've put there's a government smart grant for £1 million, and we'll find out in a couple of weeks if we can take this a little bit further into numeracy sports gaming, sort of on everything that you see, a virtual online world. Now, I'd love to. Do you know when you do your work on your whiteboard, you rub it out?
Yeah.
So imagine if this was a bit of software digital learning board, whereas you as a teacher can, when they log in, you know how much they've touched the number line. These are built in, you know how much they're using them for support. We train AI to recognise methods, so when they're writing the long multiplication out and it all works out, it'll turn green. These little dudes will train them to talk to you and go, "Hey man, you forgot to carry the 1. Come on." and then it stores.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing.
On how kids learn, and that can be quite valuable, I guess. And for yourself, you could just press a button, it screenshots everything, and all of a sudden, you've got everything that you need for Ofsted when it comes to your 5 a day. Instead of maybe your corporate maths worksheets, you might just get everyone playing this. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we might get that. But in the meantime, I guess it's just building awareness of the game and trying to build connections and give people that option if they want to buy it or not. Like getting it out there to people, and it's there, if it's here if you want to give it a go. Don't be afraid of it. Can I change habit in the way we learn maths? Because there'll be people and dads and mums will be fearful of it. I get it. I've seen it. But I've also seen the flip side when dads and mums and nannies get into it. They're like, "Oh, I can't believe you didn't know that." And all of a sudden they know what they're doing, and they've built... They're not so scared, and they're just getting on with it. So I guess it's try and sell over 2,000 games and buy some more and sell some more. And I'd love to be able to maybe have some staff, and I've got some unbelievable bonkers ideas. What's that thing called? Is it the Chinese or Japanese? Is it origami or like? Right. Well, imagine like
Origami,
as you can see me. Imagine I shouldn't be saying this because this is all in here, but I'm going to keep this quiet. But I can't help myself. I'm going to say something. Imagine where you could clip it into like a three-dimensional game where you're chasing each other, and it's a bit of parkour and little slides where you go 1, 2 and down the slide, and it might slid. Some crazy stuff going on, a bit like Inception, some crazy madness. And these could be futuristic characters, and they've got to save the world by getting the times table questions right, and some. And I'll go as far as I've got 2 cats, Rupert and Arthur. Right now, Arthur in the summer talks to this crow. Rupert chases some fat pigeon down the road. Like there's some things going on. The dogs, the cats. There's hell breaking loose. And I thought, well, I'd love a little math sports challenge. Rupert and Arthur carry on game. Just. But you know, when you think about it, there's a lot of people love that. I mean, everyone's got like cats and dogs and animals, and why not try and go down that route as well? With things. This is just a starting point because I was always interested in sport and stuff.
Well, you could have collector sets, so you could, that's the starter set. Then you go and get your animal set, and then you go and get your.
Well, do you know, I've been in conversation with Middlesbrough Football Club and Sheffield United. Now, I thought I'd love, because they run foundations and charities and a lot of community stuff. They're working in the community doing all sorts, and it's a charity raising money. So I thought, well, why couldn't I do a special edition Middlesbrough Football Club My Box Live Math Sports Challenge? Now, imagine being able to select your past and present players. They had Janino, Ravanelli, and then you can pick some of the new players now. And then, I mean, with their sort of capability in marketing, they could probably sell 3,000 of these, and I could have my little special edition and then move on to another football club like Man United. Probably sell 100,000 or 500,000 for me with, like Ryan Giggs or Scholes or something. I don't know.
Rather than a track, could you have a football pitch and they move and try and score a goal or something like that?
That is definitely possible. And I think I'd use. Well, you could even put, one of that old football game, you could have a little ball on it and press a button and it could fire into the goal. And I've even thought we could have either hexagons or, polygons, lots of different shaped, like triangles where when you get it right, you sort of dodge, slide, and you're halfway into pressing a button and shooting. And like that old cricket, do you remember the old cricket game? And there was a football one with half the ball in red, half of it in blue. I've got that at home, and we used to play. It was amazing, and I thought maybe educational games could go. I want to take it down that route. I want to do something totally different, and I'm up for it. And I guess
you could have an entire Olympic stadium with all the sports in the middle.
If I get half
around the outside,
to be right. Designing this, it's going to let my mind be free and go wild with, like, I had Lego and I was quite lucky to have a number of toys to play on. It was mint. I want to go back. I don't want to grow up. It's growing up scary as mine. I'm ready for tapping out, and I'm ready to get into the board game world and design some cool things for the next generation of kids to play on, and that would be amazing for me. That would be my life's work, And imagine being like 80 in a pub, and like someone comes up to you and goes, "You designed that maths game, you?" And I said, "Yes, I did. And I goes, "Oh well, I'm so glad because I love playing on it, and now my kids play on your other version of that Rupert and Arthur." And that would give me that would be me winning. That would be my gold medal, man. I'd be buzzing. I'd sat there and I'd be thinking, right, I don't mind if I snuff it tomorrow because I'm happy as Larry. You know, that's it. That's where.
So it sounds like it's very exciting, and you've got lots of ideas. And I think that getting off the ground is one thing, and then seeing where it can go is very exciting. So how can people find the product? Where can they go to buy it?
And where can they follow you as well?
Well, if you go on myboxlive.com, we're on there. If you Google MyBox Live, we're on Amazon, and we're on every social media site. So if you go on myboxlive.com, if you scroll down, you'll see all our links to follow us on, and we've got loads of content on there. I need to start using a bit of YouTube and I need some handy hints and tips from you two on how to put yourself across and do these type of podcast talk things, which I haven't. I need to learn about that, but I'll keep watching you, Craig, doing your thing, and I'll base it on that. So if I steal any of your lines,
are you
That's fine. We can teach everyone how not to do it.
Are you going to?
It's great. Some of the stuff that you talk about now, I bought when I was at the Expo Games. I bought the Pac-Man because I used to love playing on that, and I've got that. So that's cost more than mine. That so they must be making a killing off that. I'm telling you now, they're making a killing off that.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask you next. So, are you going to any conventions, like board game conventions?
What was that one? Sorry.
Are you going to UKGE? Are you going to
UKGE? I'm
going
to
the one
I'm
you
going
went
to
to
that
last
again. I'd love to have gone to the toy fair next week in London, but I just don't have the money at the minute. I wanted to go to that Bets. Do you know that educational one in London as well? I think that's coming up soon, and that's a big hitter. But it's like $3 or $4 grand to even get your stall there, and it's like we're on survival mode at the minute till we sell a few more, so we're just getting by, so to speak. But so I'd love to go to loads. I mean, of course I do. I see them all coming up, but I'd love to be there. I'd love to be at this. I'd love to be playing on games there and meeting people, and so.
Well, we're going to Aircon, aren't we, in March? So maybe we'll take our copy.
Do you know what we'll have to do then? We'll have to get you on our Shopify account. So if you're pushing a few games, we'll give you 10% or something. Well, we can definitely do that.
Sounds good.
Well, that sounds great. That going to Aircon and stuff. I mean, I really hope that I can get an established sort of business. And I mean, I look at Imagination Games and that Nigel guy they've got a huge area, and I thought, wow, I could push a math sports challenge competition, and I could imagine, that going on.
You need to run. If you're going to UKGE, you need to run get challenges going and have a leaderboard and have the children sign up to
Well, at the minute, we're going to develop a little bit more of the app. I've got a little bit of a budget to put little features like that in, so and not all. Some of it will be separate, just app stuff. But I want it to try and mirror the board game and always be involved with that as well. I think it's important. There's not many games when you look out there that set up like mine. You just need to Google it and have a look, and you'll go right. And I just know that it'll draw your eye to mine with the little characters. Not being like no disrespect to other math games and stuff out there, but I keep looking, waiting for that something that I go, oh, that's good. I'll buy it. And I've been waiting 43 years to go, where's the game? So I've had to make one. Myself because no one's done it. And do you know when I go to that Expo Games, it's only me, like with a math sports game there, geeky corner, but
Yeah. Well, that's what made you stand out at your table, because it was something that was completely different to everything else. And I think sometimes at those games expos, it's like, oh, there's dice, more dice, and there's card games. Okay, that's another card game. But the reason why we were drawn to your table was because it looked.
Oh, well, I appreciate that.
Different.
I mean, I can't thank you enough. And you know, a few people like just came and because they hadn't seen a maths game, like, and they were sat down. There was some guys from Oldham College or somewhere, and they've just bought 6 because they went, oh yeah, that'll do us because we run the resit crew.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're waiting with bated breath for ours to arrive. When it does, Craig will be showing off on his Instagram channels.
And yours.
Might do a bit of a review and stuff. Definitely. So I'm sure people will be seeing it a lot more. We'll be taking it to our, games meetups and things and seeing how it goes down with, our friends and their kids. I'm excited to take it into school and try it out and see how the kids at school enjoy it,
and hopefully potentially getting into board game cafes throughout the UK.
That would be amazing. Now, what I will do, right, is if I'm lucky enough to get, when I go to reorder some more, I'll just give you your 35 quid back, and if I catch you at some point, I'll get you a couple of beers in, and that's so. But thank you for supporting me and giving me the time a day to help.
That's right. Thank you for
thank you very
being
much.
on the podcast with us.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks so much. Okay, and it's time for that time of the episode where I say thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast, the mini my box, the mini box live episode, my mini.
Get into my box.
Thanks for listening to the podcast.
Oh, no,
Please
that sounds a bit odd. Edit. Cut.
Thanks for getting into my box.
No, we're not saying that.
Thanks for listening.
That's not what we meant, Chris. That's not what I meant.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the podcast. Please leave a 5-star rating, 5-star review on your pod catcher of choice. That would be wonderful. We love hearing your reviews of the show. Give us some advice and pointers. Tell me what you want us to talk about, and we will probably ignore them, but we might listen to them and tell you all those good things. We're looking forward to next week's episode of the podcast where we may have another special guest lined up all the way from the United States of America. Ooh. So, thank you.
We are on YouTube Music. Thank you very much.
We are now on YouTube Music, even though we were already apparently on YouTube Music, but I've made sure we're definitely on YouTube Music.
We were on there and we were private. So nobody could see it. That's because of the My Box app.
Thanks for listening to this episode.
You're not going to say get into My Box now?
I'm trying to.
I'm winding you up. It's not going to make any sense to most people. Sorry.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. Please go to rentshuffleandroll.co.uk and rent some board games using code GITG50 because, man, I could do with
get your shirts and merch.
And get some shirts and merch. Shirts and merch shirts. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for stopping by. And remember, get into my box live. Thanks so much for listening. Remember to get into games.